Hello, welcome back to Level Mathematics tutorial with Sam. Today we'll be talking about differential calculus. Method for calculating differential calculus. We have the first principle, derivation of sum, function of function, derivation of product, derivation of quotient, implicit differentiation. The method to be used depend on the question given, because different questions require different approach to solve it. But now, while dealing with all these 5 methods, we have to use the general formula. So you have to have the knowledge of the general formula. But before we go to the general formula, let's discuss limiting values of a function. It's very important. Limiting values of a function. Properties of a limit. We have 6 properties of a limit. The first property is the limit of a constant is the constant itself. That is, for example, limit of k is equal to k. A constant is, example of a constant, we have 7, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. But once 7 is attached with x, which is called variable, this rule does not apply again. So for example, when you are asked to find the limit of 7, the limit of 7 is still 7. But when you are asked to find the limit of 7x, this rule does not apply again. Now let's go to the second properties of a limit. The second property, the limit of the sum of a finite number of a function is equal to the sum of their respective limits. Before we move to this, let's talk about the general formula. The general formula says n x raised to power b equals to the multiplication of the constants with this power, that is x times b n b minus 1. For example, let's say 7x raised to power 2 will give us 2 times 7x 2 minus 1, which is 14 raised to power x. Another example, 5x raised to power 7 will be 5 times 7 x 7 minus 1, which is 5 times 7 is 35 x 7 minus 1 is 6. This is the general formula. Using the general formula method, we will now come back to the second property, which says the limit of a sum is equals to the sum of their respective limits. For example, let's say you are asked to find the limit of 7x squared plus 7. This plus is standing for this sum here. So we are finding the limit of this first. We now find the limit of this, and you can do it together. Let's do it together using the general formula method. So this will be 2 times 7, that is 14x 2 minus 1 minus 7, and that is 14x minus 7. The reason why this 7 is still constant is, do you remember the first rule that says the limit of a constant is the constant itself? So we apply the first rule, so this does not change. Let's move to the third rule. The third rule, the limit of the difference of two functions is equal to the difference of their limits. When we are talking about difference, we are dealing with subtraction. That's the only difference between the second rule and the third rule. For example, limit 7x squared minus 7x. This minus is starting for the difference. It will now be 2 times 4, that is 14x raised to power 2 minus 7. That is 14x minus 7. The final answer. The fourth rule, the limit of the product of finite number of functions is equal to the product of their respective limits. When you are dealing with products, it's talking about multiplication. So for example, if you are asked to find the limit, I'll still be using the same example, 7x squared times 7x. The only difference between the previous ones we've worked is this multiplication sign. So we still need to apply the same method. 2 times 4, that is 14x. 2 minus 1 times 7. This 7 is still constant. That is 14x times 7. This is the final answer. 2 times 7 is 14. 2 minus 1, that is 2 minus 1. 2 times 7, 14x times 7. The fifth rule: the limit of quotient of two functions is equal to the quotient of their respective limits. This quotient here means division. So the only condition is that provided the limit of divisor is not equals to 0. When we are talking about 7/2, this 2 under is called the divisor in mathematics, the numerator, while this is called the divided. So when you find the limit of the divisor, if it's not equals to 0, that means this fifth rule can be applied. Let's give an example. For example, limit 7x squared over 7. It will be limit of 7x squared over limit of 7, following this formula. So limit of 7x, following the previous example, 2 times 7, that is 14x, all over limit of 7 is still 7. But for example, assuming finding the limit of 7 give us 0, that means this rule is not what applied. Let's move to the next rule. Properties of limit. The final property: limit of product of constants of a function is equal to the product of the constants and the limit of the function. This is the formula. This product gives multiplication, we've talked about that, and constants, any values like 7, 8, 6, without having x apply at the back of it. Now, product of a constant, for example, we have to find the limit of 7 times 14x. This is a constant with a function. It will be you limit 7 times limit of 14x. I hope you enjoyed the video. In my next video, we'll be talking about the first principle, which is talking about one of the methods which is used to solve the differential calculus. Thanks and God bless.